Hello and welcome back to Nerding It Down. And this is the series where I break down tech references, quote screens, any scientific things, anything science and technology, anything STEM to be honest, from popular movies and popular TV series. And this would be the pilot episode of breaking down Silicon Valley. You know, the famous HBO series that made its way into pop culture. And it was like one of the best series that HBO has ever produced. And my focus is to just break down all the tech references and everything. I don't want to go into the story. And the primary reason for that is because if I explain the story, I explain the context, then that may be a spoiler for you if you're watching this for the first time. And also, I don't want to spoil that experience that you personally get with Silicon Valley. It's just a show that you don't want to miss. Watch it on your own time. Without any further delay, let's head into this. So our first reference, actually two references, two Easter eggs sort of, come up at 3:44. That would be the timestamp. And this is about Erlic's t-shirt. Now, I'm not going to explain who that is, but on his t-shirt is written, I know HTML. Now, this HTML that's written isn't the HTML that we sort of know as a programmer knows. That is, it's a scripting language that is used in web design, web development, HTML, hypertext markup language. Everybody knows that. But this HTML is actually a pun, sort of. It's like how to meet ladies. And Erlic's character is sort of a womanizer. He's sort of shown as like this, he's sort of shown like a ladies' man. He's chill, although he's not. So if we zoom into this a bit, we find that he's holding a black mug, which has written on it Aviato. And it has a plane underneath it. What is Aviato? So as you go on and watch the series, you find out, and I don't want to spoil that. So go watch that on your own. Aviato.
Aviato.
You know Aviato?
Aviato.
My Aviato?
Is there any other Aviato?
Now, so he's talking to this other guy, and he's talking about how he's not, showing any promise. His app idea is not showing any promise. And we come to Nip Alert, which is Nelson Bighetti, who's also known as Big Head. It's his app. It's called Nip Alert, and of course that should give you a sense of what it does. But to quote Erlich,
Like Nip Alert. Big Head's app, it gives you the location of a woman with erect nipples. Now that's something people want.
that is what it does. It gives you location of women with erect nipples. It's totally perverse. And later on, we also get to know, the app is not very promising. And of course, and it doesn't even work. Like, let's just take a look at what's happening here. So it looks like this is opened up on NetBeans. I can see it in a little blurry there, but I do can see it. And it looks like he's demoing the app, which is not even ready because it's just written test app and click me button. And the thing you can see with the whole, the Nip Alert thing, it's actually the UI. So it's the app is not complete. It's just a UI, a sort of a prototype of how it would look on a Windows phone, which I think is a Lumia phone right here. I'm not sure though. So this was Nip Alert. Now, one thing does come to, a person's mind when they're watching this. How would this app actually work? Because how would you find the location of erect nipples? So what you could do, what I understand is, and I did a lot of research, and it turns out, just imagine you have this phone, just placed somewhere, or it's in your pocket, for example, and it has access to the camera. It's looking at real-time images, and in those real-time images it's basically using a CNN, which is a convolutional neural network. It's a special type of AI model, a neural network to be precise, that takes in an image and it's able to classify that image. You can classify it, segment things in it. You can find edges in it. It's like the eye, we look at it and you can find things. So maybe it's using that to find curvatures in t-shirts, or I don't want to delve deep into that because it's gross to even think about that idea. And that is how that app could work. Now, later on in a different scene, just to give you a little context, there are these two programmers at Huli, and they're just checking out Pied Piper, which will be the main focus of our entire series for the 6 seasons to come. Pied Piper, as as Richard explains in a previous scene with Ehrlich,
Pied Piper will be able to search the whole world of recorded music to find out if there's a match, to see if you're infringing on any copyrighted material.
So he sends this demo to the programmers at Woolly, which is this large organization like Google in the series, and the CEO would be the antagonist of the whole series. This is I found something written on the top of it. It's something called Nice Player, and I was curious. This could be something in the real world, or maybe it was just a placeholder. Turns out, Nice Player is actually an open source media player, which is a full screen, borderless, multi-engine media player that is used for video applications, audio applications, and this is available on SourceForge, so you can go and find that. An important scene that comes up just after this scene is, so these guys are testing, and first they were mocking the software because of its lame design. Turns out Richard Hendricks, the creator of Pied Piper, turns out he's a genius. He has this algorithm that's able to search the song so quickly that their minds are blown. And what they do is they run what's called the Weissman Score test. So what's a Weissman Score? The Weissman Score isn't anything real in this world. It wasn't anything real in this world. Turns out that it was a performance metric. It is a performance metric for lossless compression applications. And there was this guy at Stanford University, a professor by the name of Tsaki Weissman, who actually created this with the student Vineet Misra. He created this Weissman Score, a metric for the producers, because the producers asked them to do that for Silicon Valley. Because they were focusing the entire show on data compression and how Pied Piper would become the best thing in data compression. So they were doing that. Now, what the Weissman Score measures is, it basically measures your compressed. It basically sorts of gives you a measure of how good of a lossless compression you have. Okay, and there's entire formulas for that. I also want to share that, and just so you know, we will go into this formula later in the season finale when it's first shown in the series on screen. Now, also another thing, the good people at Dropbox Tech, which is the tech blog for Dropbox, they wrote an entire article on this very thing. So there are two authors, Daniel Reiter-Horn and Mehand Bade, and they authored this article called Lossless Compression with Broadly in Rust for a bit of Pied Piper on the backend. They were just trying to show how this would work. Just to give you more information about this, Broadly it was an open source project by Google, and it was focusing on lossless compression. Rust is obviously the programming language that's used to create all sorts of things. And so they did an entire article on this. Go check that out. The link in the comments. Coming back to the screen I showed you a few slides back. There's a lot of things to break down here. Okay, so when they're running the test, turns out there are a lot of variables here they're looking at. And the three variables that caught my eye were simplicity, efficiency, and compression ratio. Now, simplicity it's basically a measure of how quickly the data compression is happening. Once that's done, you look at the efficiency, because you want to know how good of a compression that algorithm has done, right? You want to check your original data and you want to check the compressed data, right? And also, there's the compression ratio that we saw a few slides back, which actually tells us that, it just gives you a ratio of the original and the new compressed data. So the bigger the score of the compression ratio, the better the algorithm. Also, there are three more sort of keywords here: wave, FLAC, and PP. Not the BP that you're thinking of. So anyways, wave is just an audio format, .wav files, right? What they're trying to show is that they are testing the compressor, which would be PP, the Pied Piper compressor. They're testing it on an uncompressed audio file, a music track, for example, and they have two compressors here. They have a benchmark compressor, which will be the FLAC compressor, and it's a real world thing. So that compressor was able to compress the 25 MB file into 4 megabytes, which is almost 6 times down. It's 6 times less than that. But then they look at the target compressor, which is Pied Piper. Turns out it's performing much better than the benchmark compressor, and it has an amazing Weissman score. Good compression ratio, efficiency is good, simplicity is good as well. And so they're just shocked to their core because the Weissman score is really high. So that's a good thing. This guy on the left is Jared Dunn, who becomes an important character later in the series. He goes to the CEO of Huli, because he's in biz dev, and he goes to the CEO, Gavin Belson, and tells him that there's this guy who's figured out a way to do a search on a compressed data space. What does that mean? Now, what is a compressed data space? Let me explain that. It refers to the reduced space required to store data after it has been compressed. So, yeah, it makes sense, right? And of course, data compression, what does that mean? Because we need to define that too. It's just encoding information in fewer bits. So you don't want to use a lot of bits. You want to do it in the fewer bits. That's what compression is, For example, there's 25, just like in the previous slide, 25 megabytes of an audio song. You compress it down into 4 megabytes. So 1.1 megabyte or whatever. That's data compression. You're compressing it down so there's less bits that's representing the original file. I found a lot about this because I do understand what compressed data space is, but then it goes on to say searching on a compressed data space. Why is it a big deal? Why, you could just, if you're a programmer, that searching things, there's all sorts of algorithms you can use to search things in say, a database or a list or strings or whatever. But why is it such a big deal to do that in a compressed data space? And of course, I got this answer from Quora, from a programmer called Mikhail Forisek. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. He tells us that, the main point of the algorithm is that it would be improving the time complexity. Just imagine you have 100 items and you are searching for a certain item in that. And somehow, now the entire list is represented by only 10 items, which means you don't need to search for as many number of items as you were doing before. Now you can just look in this short list. So that's called time complexity. And if you're not in the tech world, so time complexity is basically a measure of how much time it takes to perform a program or a function, Just like brushing your teeth. Does it take you 30 seconds or you take your good time, 2 minutes, That's time complexity. And he also goes on to say is that time complexity of such a search would be roughly proportional to the size of the compressed file, which does make sense, because the less the size of the compressed file, which means you have less bits to search on, which reduces your time complexity. That is a big win in the world of technology, because everything is data related, right? Everything runs on data. Everything is data. And if you're able to search things and exponentially, reduce that search time, that has big applications. Not only are you saving a lot of time, a lot of resources, and of course, a lot of compute power, but you're also making things easy, right? That's why it's such a big deal. Now, this would be the last reference I need to break down, which is important because this is funny. This is funny as hell. So the same guy, Ehrlich, who owns the incubator, he has some guys pitching some ideas to him, okay? And this orange guy, he's sort of mansplaining things to him, telling him what 0 and 1 is. The guy's a programmer. And then he, goes on to say...
Yeah, I know what binary is. Jesus Christ, I memorized the hexadecimal times tables when I was 14 writing machine code. Okay? Ask me what 9 times F is. It's Fleventy Five.
Right, so what is Fleventy Five? 9 times F is Fleventy Five. What does that mean? Now, F is not an alphabet in computer science. Like, if you consider it from a computational approach, F actually is a number. Now, we know digits are from 0 to 9, and then it starts repeating 10, 11, 12, goes on to 19, then again repeats, starts from 0, so it's a cycle. Those are called decimal numbers, which have 10 digits in them. Yes, binary also, 0 and 1, which is, people know what binary is. There are also other types of number systems, two famous ones, which are octal and hexadecimal. So, octal has 8 digits, and hexadecimal has 16 digits. Now, the big problem arises is that you can go from 0 to 9. Okay, you got that covered. What about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15? Because you have to go till 16, before 16. So to represent from 10 to 15, you just take the alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F. So those 6 alphabets represent the numbers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now, said, 9 times F, you just multiply it by 15 because F represents 15. And what you get is 135. Not Fleventy Five, 135. And let's say, for argument's sake, you convert it into a hexadecimal number. Still, you get the answer 87. There is no such thing as Fleventy Five. Then why did Ehrlich say that? Why did he say it was Fleventy Five? Well, take a look at this.
Do you like improvise some of those lines?
I do.
You do?
I improvised the Fleventy Five.
So yeah, the actor T.J. Miller who portrayed Ehrlich, he said it was just an improvised thing he did. I mean, he of course did not know the answer. He just improved it. And he did it so flawlessly that this joke, well, it's known to all Silicon Valley fans. So that's it, folks. If I missed anything, of course, because, I had tried to cover everything. I may have missed a few things, but if I did, let me know in the comments below. I will cover all of these missed Easter eggs or breakdowns in a later future video. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.